This means it should be emphasized with the EM, or this one means it should be read strongly. This makes it possible for non-visual browsers to know what to do with your text, to read it stronger, to read it with emphasis, as opposed to the font markup elements, which tells the browser this one is italic and this one is bold, but doesn't really tell a non-visual browser what to do with it. So it's important to understand the distinction. The phrase markup elements are covered in this lesson, and the font markup elements are covered in our next lesson. The first phrase markup element we're going to talk about is the emphasize element, and all of these phrase markup elements, as well as their font markup counterparts, are inline level elements, which means that they go in line with the text rather than in blocks as the block elements. So this is an inline element, and it means to emphasize, EM, and you'll notice that in the browser it's rendered with italics. You can't count on that though. Different browsers may render it differently. If you really care if it's italics or not, you're encouraged to use the font markup elements instead. The strong element means to read it strongly, and in this case it is rendered in bold in the browser. And the Q element is for quotes, and you'll notice in the browser it is rendered with special curly quotes. An important note about the Q element, it is not supported by all browsers, so be sure that you check it in the browsers that matter to you before committing it to the internet. The code element renders in monospace text. And the next few elements are interesting. The abbreviation element allows you to use an abbreviation and hover your mouse for the meaning of the abbreviation. So here we have an M, and you'll notice that in Firefox, it puts this little dotted line under it to say, you hover your mouse over here, and you hover your mouse over and you get the definition of the abbreviation. These work differently in different browsers, so be sure to test them in the browsers that matter to you. Likewise, the acronym element, we have LOM here, and we'll notice that in the title attribute we have lots of meaning, which is the definition of the acronym. And so down here you hover your mouse over it, and LOM stands for lots of meaning. The next element is DFN, which stands for defining instance. So you would use this the first time you use a term that you want defined in a document. And in this case, the Firefox browser renders it as italic. And if you hover your mouse over it again, you get the title tag. So meaning and purpose there. DFN, the title tag means meaning and purpose. Again, this is for using a term the first time in a document and being able to define it. The keyboard element, KBD, renders